Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Senior Care Insights, a podcast dedicated to helping you understand the world of senior care. I'm Dr. Deborah Moerland. I'm the owner of First Light Home Care of Greater Lansing as well as of Brighton, and I'm also your podcast host. I'm happy to announce the guests that we have today. First, we have Jack Weyers from Family and Elder Law of Mid-Michigan. We have Nick Wake from the Care Patrol, and we have Barbara Hagan from the VNA, Michigan VNA. So welcome. Good afternoon. Welcome, Jack.
How you doing, Deb?
Doing great.
Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again. All right. We have Howard J. Weyers, a.k.a. Jack, from the Family and Elder Law of Mid-Michigan. And he's going to be speaking to us today about powers of attorney. So after nearly 25 years of it being in the employee benefit industry, Jack decided to go back to school to pursue his dream of becoming an attorney. Coincidentally, he had the privilege of being a primary caregiver for his mother as well, who struggled with Alzheimer's disease. All of these experiences occurred at or around the same time to inspire him to pursue a career in the area of estate planning and elder law to help families plan for and endure in times of need. So, could you tell us about a significant moment and or experience that inspired your strong commitment to helping families dealing with various illnesses?
Yeah, I sure can, Deb. It's kind of a real kind of confluence of things that happened all at once, but I decided to go back to law school at a very old age. And when I did that, you have to take a law school entrance exam. So I had talked to some people that I knew were practicing law, and they had visions of me entering practice with them in the gaming law area. So it's very different than what I'm doing today. So you take a test called the LSAT, which is the law school entrance exam. The day after I took that exam, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. So I was still going to go down the original path, but as you mentioned before, Deb, I was one of her primary caregivers. And as we went through that process, I would take mom out, try to keep her engaged as much as I could. And one of the things I did was take her to a local memory care facility because they did gardening there, and it was somewhere I could take her where she could garden and be safe, that we didn't have to worry about her wandering off. And while I was there, I just watched, just kind of observed the other folks that were at the nursing home. And there were folks that were there all alone and their family never visited them. Mm-hmm. There were folks where you heard the families, just fretting about how they were going to pay for care and continue to pay for care. And then the worst ones where you'd hear the people sitting around wondering if grandma was going to die in time, that they'd still get some money. So, you saw the really good and the really bad there. And that experience really inspired me to give up the gaming law piece and become an elder law attorney. So that's really what got me here. And that's what kind of fuels my passion on a daily basis.
Okay. Well, today we're going to talk about the importance of powers of attorney.
Yeah.
And so can you explain what are powers of attorney?
So powers of attorney can cover a pretty broad area, but we always kind of refer to it as above ground planning. So it's the planning that you do if you're above ground, so you're still alive, but you're not well. So what would happen if you became incapacitated? Who could make various decisions for you and act on your behalf? So there are really a couple areas of concern that we really want to address. And if you don't address it yourself, the court system in our state, in Michigan and most states, has a resolution too. But most people don't want the state making decisions for them and creating the rules for which their care would be provided and how their money might be spent to provide that care. So there are really two primary documents that we use. One's called a patient advocate designation. Some people call it a healthcare power of attorney or a medical power of attorney or a healthcare proxy. And it's a document where you name the person who can make your healthcare decisions for you if you can't. The other document we use, we refer to it as a durable power of attorney, and that is the document that allows people to make financial and legal decisions for you when you can't make them for yourself.
Okay. So what powers of attorney are needed? Are both of these needed, and why are they needed?
Well, so again, as I said, the reason that they're different is because they're different in the law. So in Michigan, you may have heard of legal proceedings called guardianship and conservatorship. A guardianship is if somebody hasn't executed powers of attorney, and they can no longer make decisions regarding their care, custody, medical, and mental health treatment, someone has to go to the court and petition to become their guardian. Oftentimes the state does this, sometimes family members. A patient advocate designation in Michigan, that's how it's encoded in the law, is a document that allows you to appoint a patient advocate and their successors if they can't act, because sometimes your agent may not be able to act. So we try to build some depth into that document, and to create rules as it relates to your care, custody, medical, and mental health treatment, to give them direction. Some people have heard the term advanced directives or medical directives. So there's a grant of legal authority that gives someone the authority to make those decisions for you. And then you can provide direction or instructions in that document so they know how you want to be cared for. So in short, as it relates to your health care, you get to choose the people who will act for you rather than the court making that decision. And you get to decide the rules they play by rather than a judge making those decisions for you. So that relates to the healthcare piece, and it's a separate document. And the other document, as I said before, is a durable power of attorney. And that's, would you name someone to act to make legal and financial decisions for you if you're incapacitated? So who pays the bills? These can be two different people. You can have a patient advocate that's different from your power of attorney. And oftentimes people like those kind of checks and balances, or they want to, split up the duties, because sometimes these aren't the most fun jobs, and you have other people questioning the decisions you're making and things like that. But we try to do the same thing in that document as we provide direction as to how we want our money spent. Together, those things are, you have the person who can arrange for your care, and then the other person who arranges for payment of your care and make sure all your other bills get paid.
Okay. So who basically needs a power of attorney?
Well, interestingly, and this is one that people forget, and it doesn't necessarily relate to seniors, is really everyone over the age of 18 should have powers of attorney. And there's a couple different scenarios that you might think of, but if you send a child off to college, they get in a car wreck and they're injured, you as your parent, once they're 18, they're an adult, you as their parent no longer have legal authority to make decisions for them as it relates to their health care. So we always say everybody who's reached the age of 18 should have at least a patient advocate designation, if not a financial power of attorney. So really everybody needs them. So there's kind of that piece, is every adult, if they want to make the decision as to who's going to make those decisions for them, should have powers of attorney. And the other thing is kind of a public duty to do these things, because if you don't do it, you're going to tie up the court system. A judge and the court's resources, when you could have taken action yourself to make these decisions and not put the burden on the court system to do so.
Right. And the court isn't necessarily going to make the decisions that you want.
That's very true. So one of the things that we've seen recently, and it is a little bit troubling, but I was just actually sending out an email here earlier to a gentleman who he's concerned that his stepmother isn't caring for his dad the way that he would like to see his dad be treated. So, and we don't know if she has power of attorney, but he asked if he should go to court and apply for guardianship or conservatorship. And I said, the risk that you run there is stepmom as wife will have statutory priority to act as dad's guardian and conservator. But son, if son can show that she's maybe not acting in his best interest, the judge may not pick the son automatically to be guardian and conservator, because oftentimes judges who get elected don't want to make that call. And the easy call for them to make is to appoint a public administrator. And that's when you see, and I mean, some of you may seen the show I Really Care on Netflix, where you see public people, public administrators or private people acting as professional guardians and conservators, acting in those roles. So you've got somebody who's in charge of your healthcare and your money who you don't even know.
Okay.
So it's a bit risky, and most people don't want to.
Sounds like it. It sounds very risky.
Yeah. So in fact, recently there was a Court of Appeals case here in Michigan where the Court of Appeals admonished a probate judge because he was doing this kind of, it became his standard of practice is when people came in, he would just appoint public guardians rather than appoint family members, even when the family members wanted to be the guardian. So it's just doing the powers of attorney is just a way for you to take control and for you to make the decisions rather than leaving that up to the state or the court.
What specific decisions can all be made in a power of attorney in terms of healthcare?
So we have what we call basic documents. And so for example, a basic patient advocate designation. In my case, I, Jack Weyers, appoint my wife, Becky Weyers, to make healthcare decisions when 2 doctors have certified that I'm no longer able to participate in my own healthcare decisions. If Becky can't do it, my buddy Mike is next. If Mike can't do it, my sister's next. So we build that kind of flexibility into the document. So that's the first decision you make. And we think you ought to make that, with some forethought. You want people to be able to carry out your wishes. In that basic document, there's generally a section that gives you one of 3 choices as it relates to end of life. So the first choice would be, if I'm in a coma or irreversible vegetative state with no hope of recovery, if life-sustaining treatment would only artificially delay my death, or the burdens of treatment, in my patient advocate's opinion, outweigh the benefits of treatment, please cease all life-sustaining treatment and let me die naturally while relieving me of pain and keeping me comfortable. So that would be choice 1. There's a second choice that just says, if I'm in a coma or irreversible vegetative state, stop life-sustaining treatment. And then the third choice is keep me alive no matter what. So that would be in a basic document. In an enhanced document, we would put directions as to different things. You want family there to pray with you, what kind of music you want to have played while you're at the hospital. Do you want to be taken outside before you pass away? All those sorts of things. We can put direction as it relates to organ donation, donating your body to science, how you want to be remembered. If you're in a long-term care situation, we create another document called a personal care plan. And that's just how you want to be treated on a day-to-day basis. Mine says, give me two cups of black coffee before 10 a.m. This is the kind of music I like. This is the kind of music I really don't like. I'm spiritual, so, please expose me to spiritual situations when you can. I want to be taken outside a couple times a day, unless it's a blizzard or rains all day like it did here today. Don't feed me liver, because my grandpa used to make me eat it all day, and don't feed me shrimp because it'll kill me. So we can be that detailed. And, in your job, so oftentimes you've got people you're caring for that can't really express how they want to be cared for. And if we can provide an instruction manual, it makes everybody's job easier, creates peace of mind, and hopefully prevents family fights when people start questioning the patient advocate on why they're providing treatment the way they are.
Okay.
So that's something we do in the healthcare. The financial power is a little bit less, flexible. There's kind of more legalese in that document. But some of the things we do there is we integrate the financial power of attorney with the rest of an estate plan, so that we're coordinating the actions of the patient advocate with the financial power of attorney to make sure care is paid for appropriately. If you're a business owner, who can run your business, because that may not be the family member that you choose as your financial power of attorney. We put all the powers that would be needed in that document and direction as to how we might protect assets if we were in a very long-term situation that might bankrupt the family, where we could try to qualify them for Medicaid long-term care benefits if needed.
So how would someone go about getting powers of attorney completed?
Well, there's a lot of ways you can do it. You can go online and find them. I don't necessarily recommend that, because maybe I'm being a little selfish in that regard, but I think there's some counseling that goes into that, to the process. So in some thought, oftentimes we see people just name their kids the oldest to youngest, and then they end up with the wrong agent. They maybe haven't thought through the decision-making process. So, the easy answer there is come see a lawyer, come see an estate planning or elder law attorney, preferably somebody that does elder law, and have them, just have these discussions about what you want to have happen, what you don't want to have happen, and who the right people are to make those decisions for you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Senior Care Insights. Your information was very valuable. I'm sure a lot of people don't realize everything that can be done using a power of attorney. And hopefully it saves some people some peace of mind, and I'll get in touch with you if they have any questions at all.
All right. Thanks, Deb. Appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Exciting things are happening here in Delta Township. The courtyard at Delta is well underway, constructing your brand new home, bringing the finest in senior living and care to the west side.
We'd love to have you join us for an appointment here at our sales center in Grand Ledge, or see you at one of the many events that we host, where we can learn more about you, your needs, and how we can best serve you and your loved ones at our new community.
Call us at 517-775-6217.
Welcome, Nick. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Deborah, how are you?
Great. The weather's awesome today. So it's just one of those nice days outside.
One of the few left in Michigan. And thanks for having us this morning.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining. So I have a few questions for you. First of all, can you explain a little bit about yourself and how you got into being in Care Patrol?
Oh, yeah. No, I'd love to talk about it. So Care Patrol, as you know, is a no-cost senior placement service helping families find independent living, assisted living, memory care, in-home care, and respite care. We're very hands-on, and I was really attracted to that. My mother started this franchise 11 years ago, and she sort of started to retire. Obviously, she's having a little bit of a hard time letting go because she's just got a big heart and loves working with the families. But they need a little bit of marketing help. And so I thought, well, why would we not want to go out and really kind of promote the message? So I was brought on to help with that. And it's been amazing. Just letting people know that we exist and the kind of help we're able to give. I used to work in politics. I used to work for a long-term care pharmacy, and this has probably been one of the most fulfilling jobs I've ever had. So that's sort of how I got into it.
Yeah, I understand that. That's totally why the most fulfilling job I've had, even though I've been a teacher as well. So I just love helping people. I think this is a great way to help our elderly mostly. So what is your process specifically with families when they reach out to you?
Oh, yeah. And like I mentioned, we're very hands-on. So, we're not just a referral aggregator. We're just sending out emails and that's the end of it. What we do is our care transition managers, we have folks that have been in the industry for a long time. Our individual that takes care of the Lansing area was a social worker for a rehab for years, did admissions. And so we go out there, we meet with them where they're at. So we can meet with them in their home. We prefer that because if they're in the emergency room, chances are it's an emergent situation and our timeline is condensed. But we do the hospital too. We're very good at that. And we get to know them. So we really focus on three pillars, right? There's three pillars to a person's, what's going to make a good placement to a person's needs. So we're looking at the physical. is a community or an in-home healthcare service going to be able to meet their physical needs? What do they need in the home? What is going to be something that's going to allow them to have quality of life? The next one's emotional. We know that people that feel at home or are at home are going to have better outcomes, right? Like it's just so much easier to get better or strengthen up or just feel better about your outlook and the quality of life if you're in a setting that feels very like home. And the last one too, and that's the critical piece, is the financial means. We at Care Patrol, we're a member of the National Placement Referral Alliance, and there's a huge tenet in our code of ethics, both from our franchisor and the association, that we need to make sure that the placements are going to be as close to permanent as possible or is financially viable for the plan that they have. So if they'd like to have in-home care, we disclose the costs. We look at that and say, hey, look, this is kind of what it's going to run, and what are your financial means to pay for it? And let's really talk about those options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
everybody has different options. I mean, there are so many, variables in what people can afford and what people really need. So.
And we get to know the communities and the in-home healthcare companies, so we know who specializes in the different kinds of care, what's going to be best for those folks. Some in-home care folks, for example, can handle more medically sensitive cases or are more comfortable with it or can staff two-person assists. Some can't. And so we want to make sure when we're making those recommendations, they're all viable for the family. So we don't recommend things that are outside people's financial means. That's just me, Hey, let's talk about real solutions and get this done.
Right. So what are some trends in the senior marketplace right now?
Well, we just had our trade association meeting, and the Michigan Assisted Living Association presented, and they gave us a wonderful insight into the assisted living world and some of the trends. It's interesting because we know that the baby boomer population continues to enter that bracket where they need a little bit more help, and we see that continuing for the next decade. So the percentage of baby boomers turning 65 and getting older is expected to increase again for that next decade. But then also there's some major staffing struggles in the industry. A lot of communities, a lot of in-home healthcare do struggle to find staff, reliable staff, good staff, folks that are qualified. And so we're seeing that as really kind of a hindrance for our clients. We recommend a community or we recommend this in-home care company, but then they run into staffing troubles. So we see that as an issue. But the positive spin is that a lot of new communities are opening up. We see a lot of people more accepting of assisted living and independent living, kind of divorcing it from the concept of the home that everybody seems to think.
Mm-hmm.
We see more acceptance of people bringing in-home care to help out around the house. My grandmother, for instance, really didn't like a stranger coming into her home, but really got used to it, really enjoyed that. And, people are more willing to take that chance. And I think that's been amazing. I think the adoption and the openness to health has been, is a trend we're going to continue to see. And, again, that concept of a home is beyond outdated. We've seen reforms on the state side that pretty much have reformed the whole system over the last 20 years, right? So it's been great to be able to dispel those myths and really see people thrive in an assisted environment, again, be it in the home or in a community setting.
Right. And I do notice that a lot of people tend to not want like any assistance, including in-home care, until they start getting it, and then they realize how much better their quality of life is once they have that help. So It's just getting used to having someone to assist, and it just takes a little bit of time sometimes.
Yeah, it's an education component. I think we're able, coming in to be able to make those recommendations. We can contextualize it a little more. Like I said, our team all come from healthcare backgrounds. All of them have been in the community setting or in some form of healthcare. One of our partners here, she worked for an in-home healthcare company out here in Grand Rapids. So again, really understands that and can can really sell the services.
So is there any advice that you have for families that you'd like to give?
Start early. There is so much that can happen, and your life can be turned upside down almost immediately. So having a plan in place, having that conversation with family members, making sure that, what do you want? Do you want to stay in the home? Do you want to consider assisted living? What is your financial needs? And really making sure someone knows what's going on, because ultimately a little bit, they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And we really like to think that we can really deliver good results if the more time we have. So I would say it's better to have the conversations in the living room than the emergency room. And as kitschy as that sounds, it's truly honest. So I would say prep and be open to bringing in experts. Our company or any other MPRA affiliated placement agent. I can't say enough about how great our association is as far as ethics and being able to help out folks. So.
Yeah, I agree with the planning early. It's even in estate planning and retirement planning, everything needs to start early and not at the very last minute, because when you're in a rush, you always don't make the right decisions.
Well, and this too, if you can get in and provide in-home care, you can stay in the home longer. It really does enhance the quality of life, the care. You reduce the fall risks in a shower. You can really prolong that experience in the home. But that involves getting there early and really adopting. Because if you don't, you're one bad fall away from going to a skilled nursing facility, which if you had just adopted a little bit more help at the front end, your outcomes are so much better.
Absolutely. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
Nope. I appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully I've been able to provide some insight into the industry. And again, it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for joining the show. Next, we have Barbara Hagan after a break here.
Exciting things are happening here in Delta Township. The courtyard at Delta is well underway, constructing your brand new home, bringing the finest in senior living and care to the West Side.
We'd love to have you join us for an appointment here at our sales center in Grand Ledge, or see you at one of the many events that we host, where we can learn more about you, your needs, and how we can best serve you and your loved ones at our new community.
Call us at 517-775-6217.
Welcome back. We now have our next guest is Barbara Hagan, and she is with Michigan VNA. How are you doing today, Barbara?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you for joining. So you want to give us a little bit of information about yourself and what Michigan VNA is?
Sure. So I'm a social worker. I'm a clinical social worker. I have experience both clinically and on the macro level, which macro social work basically is kind of looking at the world as in a big umbrella. Clinical is more fine-tuned. So that's the nicest part for me, is being part of Michigan Community VNA as their social worker. Is, we have our clients, but we also have to look at the big umbrella of all the services that they need. So I feel very fortunate, and I know I'm exactly where I should be in my life right now, and probably for the rest of my working career, is to be with working with families and patients in the community and helping them find, the care and this love and support that they need. I was a school social worker way before this, and before that I did a lot of other things. So kind of feel like I can run the gamut from cradle to grave, depending on what the needs are. And I'm happy to do that for Michigan Community VNA. So I'm their social worker, and I'm part of an interdisciplinary team. And our team includes nurses, our medical director, myself as a social worker, and then we have a chaplain, we have volunteers, and then a really big, nice support team behind us. So as a team, we do the best thing we can do for families that are needing home health care or hospice.
Okay. So what does VNA stand for?
It's a great question. Michigan Community is the first part, and then it's Visiting Nurses Agency. The company's been around since like 1889. It's really an old company. It's been bought and sold many times, and currently we're owned by 4 women. And it's kind of fun to work for a women-owned company because they just all bring their expertise and their compassion and empathy into this field that we are all working in.
Okay. So what is the social worker's role on the home health hospice team?
Okay. That's a great question. I kind of look at myself as I'm kind of a jack of all trades. The nurse obviously does all the medical assessments. The chaplain does the spiritual care. The volunteer visits and plays cards. The social worker's role basically is to look at the whole picture and and kind of help the family navigate the system. There's so much fear, and even the word hospice, that word just triggers people. So my job basically starts even before they're signed on with hospice or home care. There might just be questions or just fear. And so once we talk, through a family and to see if this is the services they need, then I jump in and I kind of say to the family, I'm going to wrap my arms around you right now, and we're all going to be part of the same team. And I don't know what it's going to look like, but at the end of our journey, you will see that we've been putting together lots of pieces. So I would say that's pretty much my biggest role with patients, caregivers, and any other loved one that's part of the equation. I follow them through this whole entire grief journey, whether it's just home health care or more specialized through the hospice journey to end of life.
Okay. So what kinds of resources are commonly needed for families?
That ranges from A to Z. That's the funnest part. The best part of my job is that I have all these things available on this website that on your podcast, you've interviewed so many people, and I've been like, I've called them. So we are all together working to help our families. Every one of these companies are. And my job is to try to find what fits the best for their needs. So the number one thing, though, that I provide as a hospice social worker or home health social worker is emotional support. Families are going through this time of life that they've never planned for. Sometimes it does get, it goes slowly, but most of the time it's crisis. And so providing emotional support is probably one of the biggest things. Secondly, practical assistance. As our loved one is aging or getting older, they might need things like meals, help with their insurance, help with Tri-County Center for Aging, for instance. We might be partnering with them. We pretty much look at everything that they would do for food and shelter, basic needs. Then comes advanced care planning. Everyone's going to ask a patient, do you have a power of attorney? Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? That is a very important part of my assessment to make sure they have these things in place. And I would say it's about 60-40. But there's easy ways to get those, and there's free ways to get power of attorney. I've got a whole package full of things that I give to people. So that's another part that I can help families with. As a social worker, advocacy is huge for me. So anyone that's my client, I advocate for them. That's my job. And then those crises come up. That's probably the next thing. Everything seems to be a crisis at times in healthcare, and helping a family navigate through that is a challenge. But one thing we do offer is Michigan Community VNA. If you're a client of ours, you have a 1-800 number. So 24/7, that number can be called. It gets picked up immediately, and whenever any of our clients can get services or whatever the question is, we can answer it. For me personally, if you're one of my clients, if I'm like your hospice social worker, for instance, they always get my cell phone number. And I tell them I don't answer it 24/7, but I will always get back with you. And I think that gives my patients a little bit more of a ease. Like, I'm not calling the big company, but I can get in touch with Barb. So that's a big part. And then finally, I would say other planning things like funerals. That's one of the hardest things for me to say to a family. So have you made your funeral arrangements? It's kind of like a dread. However, I usually start by saying, as your social worker, I'm going to stay 10 steps ahead of you. So don't get all worried if I'm asking you for things. It's just because my job is to stay ahead of you. You're dealing with the present day, what's today and tomorrow, but I need to make sure that we're set up ahead. And that's when the funeral planning comes into place. Maybe finding them another housing placement, maybe finding home health care to come to their home. Those are the things that I start preparing for ahead of time, just to kind of put the carrot there to let them know that it might be needed. So it's kind of the easy way to get people kind of walking the journey toward the end of life.
When do people typically reach out? When there is a crisis, or are they planning ahead?
That's actually a good question. I would say, first of all, if a patient is actually a home health care patient, usually they've met with their physician, and there's something that the doctor wants them to either go through some physical therapy, maybe just have a home care assessment to see what's going on at their home. Maybe it's occupational therapy. So that's more the home health care need that we would be using other companies and services as well as our own services. When I become in a hospice situation, usually a physician has told the patient or the family, you might want to think about hospice. And usually their first thing is like, oh, but what typically happens is they'll give our company a call, and it's a referral. And I go out there and do an informational, and we sit down and we just talk about where they're at. We want to meet them where they're at, see what their needs are and what their hopes and wishes are. And then we just go from there.
Okay. What type of follow-up do you do after care or after death, potentially?
Yeah. That, when I first started working with this company, I thought, oh my goodness, we put all of our energy and so much time. I mean, literally, I've got my arms around this family, and then the patient dies, and you think, oh, okay, goodbye, on to the next one. But that's not the case at all. So immediately following death, we have connection, obviously, with them. In anyone's last 2 weeks of life, our visits are very constant. The nurse sees them every day. I see them as much as I can, or I'm in contact with them as much as they need. We're always texting, how's today? What's today looking like? Do you need anything? And then after death, 30 to 45 days later, they receive a phone call from me. And I basically am just following up, because it takes a little bit of that time to, the first week, second week, third week, but by about the fourth or fifth week, that's when things start settling in, when somebody's actually lost a loved one. So I offer my services at that point, and then I call back again at 75 days. So that's about 6.5 months or so. And then we follow them actually for about 8 times through some mailings throughout the year. So they get about 8 different mailings. They get one at 1 month, 3 months, 6 month, 9 month, 11, and then at 13. So at about 13 months, we kind of start saying to them, okay, are you guys good? You ready to move on? If they need more help, we never stop being available, but that's usually the system that works the best.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that totally, because we kind of do the same thing with home care. And people, you mentioned that you share your cell phone number. All my clients have my cell phone number. So if they need something, they can personally reach out to me, and it gives them that connection, as well as, following up and going and visiting the clients. That's my favorite thing to do, actually.
Yeah.
I sometimes spend too long and don't get other things done, but I mean, that's part of who I am and what I like to do. So, and that's really good about, many people in our industry. We're in it for a reason. And I can see that how you're passionate about what you do as well. So, what is the most important message to the family when they have to help their aging parents?
Well, I've been doing a lot of work in this area for my own information as far as my education and clinical work. The one thing I'm learning about the most is that, well, the one fact is nobody ever gets to practice getting old, right? We go, 61, 62, 71, 75, 81, 82, right? Nobody gets to practice getting older. It just happens, right? But the aging process is the part that's the unknown. Everybody ages in a different way. And when we get to the point where aging is requiring help or aging is requiring like more healthcare services, that's the part that gets really difficult. So the important message I really like to share with families is that your loved one is aging, they're getting older, right? That can't be helped. And they've been independent for a very long time. But then suddenly something happens and everybody panics and they try to do everything for their aging parent or their aging loved one. And that's where I see the conflict in families. Because, dad is saying, whoa, what are you doing? I don't need you to help me put my socks on. And, daughter Sue is saying, come on, dad, just let me help you out here. So what I'm really learning to help families from the beginning and through this whole process is helping them communicate and understanding where their loved one is and really honoring their aging parent. Not so much that you're saying, I'm going to do everything for you, but showing them, let's talk about the things that you can do and then the things you need some help with. Again, I'm at 10 steps ahead, right? I'm helping the family realize it's going to happen. But in that moment where we meet the patient, we want to help them where they're at. I guess at the end of the day, this patient's losing, that like there's so much to lose. And they feel like the loss of control is just taking over. So if we can give them one sliver of control, it's worth it. But that takes family communication. So that would be my final point, is that the role of communication amongst families, friends, community, whatever it is the big piece that the social worker can really be part of. A lot of our families live in different places, but that doesn't mean we stop communicating, right? We have FaceTime, computers, so many Zoom calls, so many ways. And that's probably one of the things that I will definitely help a family with is setting up a family conference, or if there's arguing, family conference. I'm pretty good at that. Sometimes families are looking at me like, there's no way you can help us. And I usually just say, well, let me try.
Right.
So the most important message is really respecting this aging parent that's getting older. It's not their fault. It's life. We're all going to be there too, but maintaining as much independence as you can and just loving them. At the end of the day, I must say this 100 times a day, just love them.
Right. Right. That's absolutely correct. So, and listening to that, what their needs are is so important, and making them realize that even a little bit of help can help them stay independent longer.
Yeah.
Do you have any other advice for a family when navigating senior care?
My biggest advice is, just don't be afraid to reach out. I know it's a big step. Sometimes reaching out doesn't mean you're not signed on. I think one thing with hospice, and I've heard some of your other speakers talk about, is even if you're on hospice, it's not a death sentence. A lot of people get better on hospice because they're getting attention, they're getting the medical care they need. And it's common that we will back out, we'll take hospice off and put home care on, and then reach out to companies like yours to help them at home with their home health needs. So reaching out to someone like me is a great thing because I can help you navigate that. And there's never any dumb questions. I just like to be available.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate all of your insights.
Thank you.
I appreciate the fact that we chit-chat and we have a little bit of a 10 minutes of conversation.
Somebody that I can talk to, and somebody that another person that's my age that's actually here for me.
She comes twice a month. They were here to take care of my husband, help me with housework, cleans my kitchen, my front room, and mops my floors. Believe me, it's a godsend right now.
Able to take me to the store, cleaning the house, and just talking to me.
I really enjoy helping the clients and getting to know them, and companionship, and helping them stay in their home and feel independent.
I find my job rewarding, making a difference in people's lives and helping them out in any way I could.
I recommend working at First Light Home Care. They have flexible hours, and you get to be a great relationship with the client and feel like you're making a difference.
Like I say, we've not only become our caregivers, but also friends.
If I didn't have a caregiver here, I would be struggling on a daily basis. And when she comes in and does it, it's such a tremendous help to me.
Exciting things are happening here in Delta Township. The courtyard at Delta is well underway, constructing your brand new home, bringing the finest in senior living and care to the West Side.
We'd love to have you join us for an appointment here at our sales center in Grand Ledge, or see you at one of the many events that we host, where we can learn more about you, your needs, and how we can best serve you and your loved ones at our new community.
Call us at 517-775-6217.
I want to thank our wonderful guests that we had on our show today. Jack Weyers from Family and Elder Law of Mid-Michigan, Nick Wake from Care Patrol, as well as Barbara Hagan from Michigan VNA. I also want to thank our sponsors, Brookdale Meridian and Courtyard at Delta. We really do appreciate their time and dedication to their respective causes and for being on our show. This is Dr. Deborah Moerland signing off on episode 2 of Senior Care Insights. See you next month.